Howdy! Today we are in Excel Chapter 1, which is all about creating and formatting a worksheet. Now, I just have to tell you that I really love Excel, and it is considered to be the most powerful programming language in the world, and a lot of people don't know that it's actually considered to be a programming language. But you can get so deep into Excel that you can program many things. We will only just scratch the surface. But the surface that we will scratch will be very useful for you. And if you really wanted to focus your time and attention on something that's valued in the workplace, believe me, really strong working knowledge of Excel is of great value. So the first part mainly is to understand about looking at a cell. So we have column headers, and they are the letters. We have row headers, and they are rows. Rows are horizontal, columns are up and down. And we have a cell, which is the intersection of a column and a row. And right here we have the cell address, C1. Now I can also type a cell address in there, so let's go with D22, and it'll take me straight to D22. Now this is going to be very handy for you when you are entering information for your exercises, because if it tells you in a specific cell, type it there and go there, and then you'll make sure that you didn't accidentally hit D21 and not notice. Now this is a worksheet. We have a workbook, and it used to always have 3 worksheets. Now, not necessarily. At any rate, I need another worksheet because I want to show you some of the power of Excel. So I am going to hit plus there, and it's going to give me a new sheet, and I'm going to put schedule. Now, I'm going to type a date in here. It knows it's a date. Now, if I go to copy that, I want you to look at what is happening there. It is actually incrementing the date and going all the way out. So if I was creating a work schedule, now here I have autofill options. Look at this. I can just fill weekdays. Fill days, so only the weekdays now are showing. And these pound signs here, that only means that there's not enough room in the column to display the contents. So when I hover between the column headers, I get this, my cursor turns into a two-faced arrow. If I double click that intersection, it's going to automatically make it wide enough. I can also drag it to make it wide enough. Now, if I click at the intersection of the column and the row, it selects the entire spreadsheet, and then double click between them, and it adjusts all of them. Okay, so let's go down here and let's put 1 p.m. 1:30 p.m. Now I'm going to highlight the 2 of those. One very important part of this, if you want Excel to guess what it is that you want it to do, is that you have to tell it. Now in this case, it recognized that it was a date, and the format of it changed. So right here is where it tells you what type you're using. And this is a short date, and that's just hunky-dory. Here, it's time. However, all of our cells are by default just general format. So when I go to enter a time in here, let's see what happens. Did it recognize it as a time and change it when I did it that way? No, it didn't. It did it as custom. Now I'll put 1:30 in here, and I'll see if I can get it to increment. And it did. As long as those are exactly the same, it incremented. So 1:30, and that is incredibly valuable. So actually, this is not really good. I kind of need another column in here, so I'm going to right click and go insert, and it inserted a column. If I decided I wanted 4 columns inserted, I'd highlight 4 columns, and then I would right click and go insert, and I would get 4 columns. And rows work the same way. Click on the row header You're not going to see anything because it doesn't need to be. Now, I want to move those over. So I'm going to highlight both of them. And when I get here and I have a 4-headed arrow, it means I'm going to move something. And I moved it. And it's not big enough to display. So the shape of your cursor tells you an awful lot in Excel. When it's solid like that, I click and I'm ready to edit. If I want to move something, I have to hover over the edge till I get the 4-headed arrow, and then I can move it. So now that I have these both, I want to go from 1 a.m. and let's say that we go until 10 p.m. are the hours that we actually have someone working. So it automatically put that in there. Now, this is just a wonderful thing. Now I can go through here and I can put names. And let's say that Carolyn is working a 5-hour shift, and then Sam is working the remainder of the day. And then Julius is going to work for 2 hours. And Samantha is going to work for the remainder of the day, and then I go ahead and I fill these in. How about this? Ooh, how easy is this? Look at that. I'll highlight that, a whole arrow. When I get that, if I hold down the Control key and hover over, look, I get a plus, and I drag a copy. However, I don't want to let go of that Control key until I actually drop that. And I can just drop blocks in there of copies of how long people want to work. And we'll fill Julius in. He's obviously low man on the totem pole because he has to pick up all of the slack. And everybody else gets to say where they want to work. So now I want to know how many hours everybody worked. So I'm going to put their names down here. Okay, and I am going to use a COUNTIF function. And I insert a function by clicking on this little FX here. And it opens up, insert a function. And if I know what function I want to COUNTIF. And there's COUNTIF. And it has a range, and the range is where I'm going to count. Now, it says, is the range of cells from which you want to count non-blank cells. So, you know what? Probably I would want my range to be, who knows, maybe I just want a week at a time. Now, let me scroll back over here. Ooh, I didn't get it all. Here we go. There's all of them. And my criteria, so if I put my cursor here, is the condition in the form of a number, expression, or text that defines which cells will be counted. Here's my criteria. Now, I'm going to copy this formula down, and we are not at the point yet where we have learned about absolute and relative cell references, but I'm just going to tell you this has to be absolute, and I'm going to do that. Okay, and then what just happened? 12 a.m. How weird is that? That does not seem to work, does it? Let's click there. Let's look. It is formatted as time. We do not want it formatted as time. We want it formatted as a number. Turns out that that is the number that actually is the number for the time that was displayed. If we put it back to time, it's going to say 12 a.m., so 20. So time is actually a function that is numerically evaluated and allows us to actually do math with time, which is awesome. You're going to learn, and it's wonderful. So now when I copy this down, this says that each of these is a half-hour unit of time. So how easy is this? I can put a pay rate in there, So Carolyn, because that's my name, she makes $50 an hour. Yeah. Julius, bless his heart, he's only $8 an hour. Sam is 15. And Samantha, well, she makes $28 an hour. Then I'm going to put a formula in here that says equals this times, which is the asterisk. Formulas always start with equal. That's not really true. You can start them with a plus sign also, but that's going to just confuse you. Times this times 2. And why times 2? Because we were counting it in half-hour increments. So that calculated the pay automatically for all of my employees, and I did not have to count up anywhere how many hours they actually worked. One other thing that you need to understand about a cell in Excel is that it contains 3 items. The cell actually can contain 3 items. A formula, in this case, it's G23 times F23 times 2. And then it contains a value that is returned by that formula, which in this case is 2000. It then also has a format. In this case, it's general, but it should be number. So those are the 3 aspects, but that format could also include bold, or it could include that these are hours, so really I just want comma style. I want the comma so that it's more readable. That's a format, not necessary. If we were, actually, that is money, isn't it? That's the $2,000 that Carolyn earned in that few days. And so we're going to go ahead and we can format that as currency. And look at that, we can even format it as foreign currency. And then it puts the dollar sign. Now, there is a difference. If you'll notice, that is accounting format. We also have currency format. So with accounting format, the dollar sign was on the left side of the cell. And currency format has the dollar sign slammed up against the number. So again, accounting with the dollar sign over there, and currency with the dollar sign next to it. And that would actually be more visible if we had a wider column so that you could see that, and then change it to currency. And I'm sure that you can see that I'm going to change it to currency, that is not as neat an appearance as if it was all accounting format and the numbers lined up as well as the dollar symbols. All right, now let's say that everybody in here actually needed 8 hours of holiday pay added in. So we should theoretically be able to go back to this formula, and let's see, when I click up here, I want you to notice that this turns blue and this turns red, and the blue refers to this cell, and the red, and that was the $50 an hour, and this refers to this cell. So I should be able to just add plus 8, right? So plus 8, and what do I get? $370 instead of $2,000? Huh, it's not the way I want my pay calculated. So this has to do with the order of operations. In this formula, we know that the multiplication is going to be applied before the addition is applied, which means that the times the rate of pay and times 2 was only applied to the 8 hours. If I want it applied to all of the hours, I have to put parentheses here. And then it goes from 2,000 to 2,320. Now, I want to go ahead and copy that formula down because I'm happy with it now. So you're going to have to think about the order of operations and how that's going to affect your formulas, because in the problems that it's going to present in this chapter, that is going to be significant. I also need to point out something that is just wonderful. So I'm going to actually delete this formula and point out that I click in here and I type the equal sign. Notice the equal sign appearing up there. and then I just clicked here. I could have typed in F23, but I click there and it puts it there for me automatically, and then times, and then I click here and it puts that cell reference, and then times 2. And now I'm going to copy this down, and then I want to do something else. Let's just copy this formula. Well, we don't really want to, well, okay, let's copy it over here and see what happens. $200,000? Whoa, 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 whoa. Something weird happened there, and that's the paycheck I want. So let's click up here in the bar and see what happened. All right, I copied this formula over one to the right, and it copied both of the references one to the right. That's what's called a relative cell. That's why I told you we had to hit F4 whenever we copied that. So I don't really like that formula. I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to go back over here, and then I'm going to highlight. I could have done this while I was in there, but I'm going to highlight it now and hit F4. And it's going to put a $sign in front of both of them, and it's going to make it an absolute cell reference. So I'm going to hit enter, and now when I copy it down, what happened there? Weird, weird, weird. It did not recalculate. Let's go to File, Options, Formulas, Automatic. Oh, guess what happened? It now has them. So we can view our formula by clicking here and clicking in the toolbar. And remember that it lights up and it shows us to what our formula refers. And that is a very handy feature. It's the same thing if I click here, and even on my COUNTIF function, it shows me that the first thing, which is the range in which I'm going to count something, and then my second thing, which has $signs here so that it doesn't change when I copy it down, refers to this. If I click down here, this stayed and this stayed, and it's because it's an absolute cell reference. Oh, something happened there that is so not right. It should have been an absolute cell reference. Whoa, whoa, whoa. So let's go back up here. This one also should have been an absolute cell reference because we didn't really want our range to change. So hit F4, enter, copy that all the way down, and watch how the pay changes. We had 304, 504, 1288. Whoa, we were cheating people. Yes, sir, we were. Okay, so relative and absolute cell references make a big difference. Here it refers to this. This is relative. When I copied it down 3 more spaces, it copied the cells down 3 more spaces. So when we did this, because it was an absolute cell reference, it actually continued to point to this. So if I click, and that was my second instance, it's actually continuing to point to there. Now, let's just say that I want to go ahead and use this in this location. If I will pull this up, it'll pull up my whole formula again, and that gives me the opportunity to reselect my range. And you'll notice that as I began to pull it out, it actually collapsed the ribbon, and now it's back up. Now I've got to hit F4 on that, and then I'm going to reselect my range down here. And hit F4. There we go. And then when I copy it down, everything is all good again. And the beauty of that is that if Sam actually picked up 3 hours, I'm just going to copy, well, it's 2.5 hours, and popped it in the middle of Samantha's. It changes. So now I have their pay, and I would like to move this to a different location. So I'm just going to highlight it. I could right click and do copy, or I could do Control C. And let's go back over here, and I'm going to paste it right here. But something happened with my formula. So if I wanted to just paste the values, because that's all I wanted, because my formula is now referring and it's doing weird stuff, so I'm going to do Control Z. And what I have to do in order to paste just the values is I want to go paste special. And paste special here, it's showing me what it's going to paste. Values only. So there we go. Only the values. And then I could merge that onto their paycheck, like we did in the 3rd chapter of Word. In Excel, it becomes very important that you set all of your page settings before you print correctly. And as you can see, it's actually got a lot of space on there. And if you accidentally got, let's go to ZZ400. ZZ400. Okay, look, notice ZZ400, that's pretty far down there. And I'm just going to put a 22, and let's just say I just, did something wild and crazy, like laid something on my keyboard on the arrows, and it got me all the way down there. I didn't realize it, but I know where I am, so I just do Control Home, and then I go File, Print, and I want to print a, okay, print, let's see, and show print preview. And I want you to look down here at the bottom of the page, page 1 of 711 pages, because of that one character that's on Z22. Pay attention to this. If you accidentally, you'll end up printing a whole lot of pages. So I'm going to go back, and Control Home and Control N do the same thing for you in Excel that they do in Word. So I'm going to do Control N, and I'm going to delete that 22. And then I'm going to do Control Home, and now I'm going to do Control P, which is print, and show print preview here, and it's page 1 of 1. Alrighty, that's much better. Now I'm going to go back, and I'm going to tell you that if you had a bunch more columns, you would probably want to highlight just your print area. So I can go to Page Layout, Print Area, Set Print Area. And this becomes really valuable because in this page setup box, I can select it to fit to 1 page wide by 1 page tall, and that's really nice. Now I've got margins here, and I can set them directly, point 2, tab point 2, tab point 2, tab point 2. That's how you get through it faster than having to place your cursor. Center on the page, horizontally and vertically. We've got header and footer. This is one of the places you can find header and footer, so you can do a custom footer. And I can put insert date, insert number of pages, insert page number, insert file name. And I'll go over here and insert file path. There we go. Okay on that. And when I go over to sheet, options that I have are rows to repeat at the top. Now we talked about in Word that on a table you could only repeat the top row, but here you could repeat multiple rows, and you just collapse this, and then you go over and you select your rows, and then you expand it again, and columns to repeat at the left. So I might want to repeat column 1 because that may have my headers, and I can put grid lines, which means that all these lines that I see on the cell will show up. You could also accomplish that by using borders, but I just want you to be aware of grid lines. And then I would go to print preview, and it would show me that I did not opt to do print previews, but notice that it is centered on the page, that I do have a footer. It's very gnarly because that is a long file location, and it actually overran. So if I wanted to do this, I'd probably go back and I would move that file name over to the right side. All right, let's go back and I'll show you the other location where you can find. So on page layout, you've got margins, you've got orientation, you've got background. I can print a background on it, which I probably have nothing to use, except I apparently do not have anything to use as a background, but you can do that. And that concludes our overview of the functions and features that you're going to be using in Chapter 1.